Our northern neighbors in Maryland are very enthusiastic about a certain crustacean. They festoon their cars with stickers of them, there's restaurants for them everywhere, and the harvest season is something to celebrate. I refer, of course, to the humble blue crab. Now, I am definitely no Marylander, but I do love a good crab cake. Who among us doesn't? But over the winter, you can't really get local crab. The season for crab is set by the DNR, and it's only from April to December. So when April 1 rolls around, it's often time for a pilgrimage to the Chesapeake to have some crab. A lot of the bigger restaurants in places like Baltimore and Annapolis sell crab, but it isn't actually always local. A lot of it comes from Louisiana, or sometimes either further afield from places like Indonesia. When restaurants list Maryland crab cakes on their menu, they're actually referring to a Maryland-style crab cake, not necessarily Maryland crab. So, of course, to get a good local crab, you have to go to a good local spot. So, for us, this is a little family-run spot in Annapolis called Wild Country Seafood. They have their own boat, they go out in the morning, they get some catch, they bring it back in the afternoon, and then they sell what they've got. This is our destination for the day. But first, I was due to check the valves on my bike, so I set about doing that for the morning. Well, most of the Airhead models call for 0.1 and 0.2 on the valves. The R65 actually goes for a slimmer 0.1 and 0.15. So I set about ensuring that everything was in spec before riding up to Annapolis. Valves set, it was time to go spin up the road to Annapolis and enjoy some crab. My wife came along for this one since it was a local trip and she is also an enthusiast of crab season. The ride up to Annapolis isn't particularly interesting. You're just nipping up 295 to State Road 50 and then heading east. If you stay on 50 and keep heading east, you'll eventually go out over the Bay Bridge to Kent Island and then onto the eastern shore of Maryland, but that's for another trip I have planned this year. So today we're just headed for Annapolis. When we first arrived at the restaurant, I was a little worried because there was no one out front. I was worried that I had read the opening date wrong, but turns out we just came at a slightly weird hour after most people had already had lunch. We had a nice combo platter with some crab cakes, some fish, clams, shrimp. The crab cakes are really nice, just basically entirely crab, none of this nonsense of half the inside being just breading. We also had a look around the local pier. Folks were out sailing on the bay despite the gray weather, and there were even some jellyfish floating around in the water. Imagine renting out the house above this. But then, of course, it was time to head back. So we meandered through the historic downtown, looking at houses, before hopping back on the state road to get back. The availability and convenience of stuff like this is one of the nice things about living in DC. There's just a lot of places within, an hour ride or so to get a little day trip in. On the note of production, please forgive the bad audio in this video. I lost my audio cover for my GoPro, and my jerry-rigged solution caused the camera's audios to somewhat go on the fritz, so it will be fixed for the next one. Until then, ride safe, and enjoy the spring weather. Putain. Oh. Aye, 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 aye.